Hello, everyone. Welcome to our Empowering Medical Writing series. We're going to give everyone a few minutes to join, as we had about 100 people accept to attend today's webinar, and then we'll be getting started very shortly. We're looking forward to diving into this topic with you all, and hopefully you find it interesting. All right, wonderful. Well, welcome everyone. My name is James Green. I'm the Executive Leader of Business Development here at TrialAssure, and I'll be leading us through today's webinar as we start our Empowering Medical Writing series with the use of generative AI in automating TLF processing for the clinical study report generation. Joining me today in the webinar will be my colleague Zach Weingarten. He is the Director of Product Solutions here at TrialAssure, and managing the chat in the webinar will be my colleague Himanshu Kumar Singh. He's the Senior Manager of Business Development. Please use the chat or the Q&A if you want to interact. We will be having a Q&A session towards the end of the webinar. During today's webinar, we are going to take you on a journey around why CSRs matter, the complexities involved in writing a CSR, why AI is a viable bridge to help expand efficiencies in the process. We'll be focusing then on a live demonstration with the power of GenAI in TLF processing, and finish up with a Q&A and discussing some next steps. And from here, we're hoping you will take away a few key topics, being that there are some actionable insights for your adoption of GenAI, understanding how it can be used to process TLFs, as well as giving you some resources that can help you on your journey. So when we think about a clinical study report, it really is the gateway to the market success of the drug development journey. High quality CSRs can improve the overall rates and reduce review times from different regulators. It also provides detailed account of trial methodologies, which can ensure transparency and accountability within a quality assurance standpoint. And when we think about market access, a well-prepared CSR does provide a smoother market access for new therapies, and which can overall impact the business success. And lastly, it provides stakeholder confidence. A high-quality CSR is all about transparency to everyone involved in the trial, and fosters trust among stakeholders, healthcare providers, and patients. But due to its nature of being a complex document, it does require quite a few different sources, including a protocol, statistical analysis plan, safety narratives, tables, lists, and figures, as well as others depending on your internal processes. And with that, there's high level of complexity because you're integrating diverse data sources, which requires harmonizing the formats for accurate reporting. And when you do this manually, the TLF processing is very labor intensive and is normally prone to errors, which requires lots of quality checks to ensure that accuracy. And this delays timelines. And then because we're making these CSRs within a very stringent regulatory compliance, we have to go through guidelines such as ICH E3, as well as the requirements from the regulatory bodies such as the FDA and EMA. It's important that we're providing consistency in our writing process. And that means we have to align to all of the other clinical documents, such as the protocol, statistical analysis plan, and other submission documents. Now, one of the things that we built to really power our solution is the ability for our templates to really specify what different formats the source material comes from. And I'm going to pass over to Zach quickly to highlight just how we do that in our Link AI platform.
Yes, thank you, James. And hi, everyone. As James mentioned, I'm Zach Weingarten, Director of Product Solutions with TrialAssure. I'm happy to show some of the functionality that TrialAssure Link has to offer. So I'm going to log into the demo environment. And in this segment, I'm going to just create a new document. You can, within this platform, create all kinds of different document types. They can either be standalone or batch documents, such as narratives. In the case of a CSR, you have specific sources built out and associated to that particular document type. So depending on which type of document you're creating, you might have different sources than what you see here. And sources can either be structured or unstructured and enabled for AI or not. So in this example, we're going to pick from our selection of sponsors and then templates. You may have multiple different templates built out for CSRs. We can do the Transcelerate template for this example. And you can see there's different document types that will allow different file types. And so if I have a protocol, I could upload that just by simply clicking there and finding the file from my machine, or if you have integration with a document management system that's supported as well. And I can also upload my TLFs. So if I have those in a PDF or Word format, we can go and select those and then upload them here to initiate this document. Once I provide my sources, the AI-enabled ones are going to be processed by a language model, which is going to then sort of distill them down into a understandable format. And then prompts that are built into my template can then be leveraged to generate text about that particular source. So you may have general prompts that are asking more general questions across all your sources, or you might set up your prompts in some sections to point to a very specific TLF. So you can do either of those. So your template is built out with a number of different prompts. Each prompt could be pointed to a specific TLF or to the whole broad library of sources that you provided for that document. All right, and then I'll turn it back over to James, and then in a little bit, we'll show how this document looks once it's been generated. Thank you.
Brilliant. Thanks, Zach. So when we go back to a manual process, we know that in total, it takes on average around 280 hours for a medical writing team to put together a CSR. You've got a big chunk of that being that first draft and data analysis, averaging around 156 hours. From there, you're then doing around 37 hours on a first draft review. There will then be a series of updates, second draft reviews, more updates, and then the final review till you get finished. And that brings us to that 280-hour total. Now, that's a lot of manual work. And as you can see, a lot of it comes from the review that is built around the manual process of going through TLFs and the error-prone nature of that. This results in 45% of regulatory professionals from a survey that RAPS put out last year acknowledging that time constraints were their primary challenge in 2024. And not only was time constraints, but also resource constraints within their companies was another area of frustration. Now, what if you had the ability to use AI as a viable bridge to enhance the amount of time you had, as well as increase the resources of your team? One of the interesting figures we found here was that from the survey, they identified that there was a need for AI, and about 56% of surveyors. However, only 1 in 10 are actually using AI today. That means that there are 9 out of 10 people in the industry that are yet to be leveraging AI, which is a huge need for us to drive efficiencies and creating more resources and less burden on the team members. And AI is really starting to take off within the realm of medical writing. We keep seeing new stories around teams using AI to streamline their processes, boosting productivity, shortening weeks of work down to minutes. And this is happening in pharma, in biotechs, in CROs, and it leads to time savings and efficiency gains. And these are real, true, measurable benefits that you can achieve today. And kind of talking through that timeline of AI adoption, what we've seen here at TrialAssure is that, when we started, we were working with teams that were using the manual process, and they highlighted that it was prone to errors, time consuming, with a big focus on areas that they didn't enjoy about the writing process, the extensive data collection and analysis and interpretation. And then from there, it all being from fragmented data sources, meaning a lot of cross-checking. As technology evolved, we moved into a realm of like semi-automated development of the clinical study reports. This enabled a significant time saving, but there was still quite a lot of manual process when it came to reviewing tables, listing, and figures because the models and the data weren't really computable. They were making errors. But now we're moving towards this true AI assisted model now. And this is where you can actually get up to 80% of the time saving through the entire document creation process. And that's what I'm excited to show you today. So I'm going to pass you back over to Zach, and he's going to walk you through where Link AI is in helping clients with CSR generation from tables, listings, and figures.
Okay, thank you, James. So first, let me show you the template, and then I will show the document once it's been populated with some text from the AI as we just discussed. So this is what the Transcelerate template looks like. If you've used it, it probably looks pretty familiar, except you've now got these, we call them prompt tags, inserted throughout this document. Some of these just represent simple properties like the protocol number or the phase, which is values that are extracted from the sources and then inserted into the document where these placeholders exist. And then other ones are going to be more, text heavy. So the ones that in our convention are TA_CSR, these are the actual prompts and responses that are going to be inserted into each document section. So you'll notice that each section, for the most part, will have its own separate tag, and each tag corresponds to a prompt that then gets sent to the model, and then its response inserted into the appropriate section. Some of these prompts, of course, are going to be better tailored to pulling from the protocol, and then others from the tables, listings, and figures. So just depending on what. So then here's how it looks like once it's been generated. So we have, obviously the document once it's been populated with the different data, and then in our sidebar here on the right, call this the AI assistant, you can then review and look at the prompts and responses for any of these prompts that were sent to the model. So I'm going to jump over to section 5 here as a good example. So here we've got 5.1, an efficacy summary, and then the prompts that corresponds to this text is this one. So this is what that looks like. So by default, there was a prompt set up based on some of the help text in the Transcelerate CSR. requesting it to summarize data and organize it into the following headers. And you can see in this nice chat kind of interface what the model came back with exactly. And then there's a little bit of kind of massaging and converting things like the headers into the actual appropriate word header, tables as well. But, with kind of some basic sort of transformations there, it really just, inserts the text there. And to further refine it as the writer, I can do two things. I can, of course, if I want, just edit the text directly in Word as you would any text. Or I could refine my prompt or instruct the model to maybe phrase this a little bit differently or include more information or less information. Rewrite this response, including more details about adverse events. And then we can send it. So that's going to instruct the model to now return a new refreshed response. And then if I like it, I can select that response and then insert it quickly right into the document where that tag belongs. We do find now that the models, especially more recently, have really drastically improved in their ability to understand and interpret data. And that's something that's really been interesting. When GPT first came out, this is something it really struggled with. Even basic arithmetic, it would kind of famously get wrong. But if you take this data and look back at the sources that were provided here, you would see that these types of calculations are extremely accurate, and that's something that you look at when you think about which type of model you want to use. You want something that's going to be able to summarize your data accurately, of course, if you're relying on it to produce tables like this. That being said, I certainly would not recommend foregoing QC on any computations. But yeah, so it's able to summarize this pretty well. A lot of it is also dependent on the writing of the prompt. So that's why we have this AI assistant interface here that allows you to refine and regenerate new prompts. And if you find that using certain verbiage or providing additional instructions is helpful, you're able to save those prompts so that they could be used as the default prompt in the future. You can also create a new prompt. So if I have a completely new section that maybe didn't have something in the template, or I want to add another paragraph and have it pull from the sources, I'm able to do that here as well. And then again, if I like the prompt that I used, I can save it globally so it would be used in the future in this template or in other documents. Okay, and I'll turn it back over to James. Thank you.
Thank you, Zach. And so you're probably wondering, what does that actually mean to me? How does that change my processes today? And so we did some rough calculations here around what the manual process used to be at that 280 hours. The semi-automated process, that was reducing everything down to actually a total of only 80 hours, saving 200 hours in per document process, which is around 30% time saving. Now, 80 hours saved, which is a 30% time saving, down to 194 hours. Whereas where we are today with the automated process on TLFs, it saved a total of 166 hours, total time down to just 114 hours, which is 60% time saving. And as we're continuing to move into a fully automated system, that's where we get to that 80% time saving. Now, if you want to learn more around how TrialAssure can help, we'd be happy to schedule a personalized demonstration so you can see more details around Link AI. If anyone is interested in a personalized demo, I would recommend putting a note into the chat. Himanshu was just messaged there, either like his message or put a note in, and we'd be happy to follow up. And we also are working with a lot of clients on proof of concepts where they can get hands-on experience around a different document that they're trying to tackle at their business. It's a great way for you to start on your generative AI journey. And so I want to wrap up just with an overview around who TrialAssure is. We've been in the industry for almost 16 years now. Specifically started around transparency and disclosure with our product registry, which is the global registry compliance tool. We also have a technology called Beacon, which enables compliance tracking and assessment for all disclosure activities. We have our data, document, and image redaction software, Anonymize, which enables both redactions and anonymization. And then, as we were talking about here today, we have our Link AI, which is a document agnostic tool for generative AI document generation. And not only are we working with CSRs, but we are quite able to adapt to any templates that you're working with to develop any type of document, be it clinical, regulatory, or even internal documents and reports that you need to process. So really excited to have so many people join us today to learn more. And now I'm going to pass over to the question and answer part of our webinar. Dana, I'm going to allow your mic. You want to take yourself off mute, you should be able to ask your question.
Hi, thank you for that interesting presentation. I was very interested to see the metrics where you have. Could you speak a little more about the third row in that slide where the time save was 166 hours? I noticed that it was 1 hour to first draft and authoring. And then the next step that was first draft review, is that the medical writer sort of reviewing what the tool has output, or is that like actually bringing a cross-functional team in to review what the tool authored?
Yes, so I believe that was the typical cross-functional review of the first draft, was the 37 hours. So as you'll notice, and I'll bring that screen back up, is that this has the same amount of time pretty much across all areas of development for that first draft review, but you are getting that big saving in the actual analysis and first draft authoring. But then we expect that teams will still take the same amount of time in the first review on the cross-functional team, because you want to make sure that you're doing all the QCs to ensure that the draft is accurate, and then do the updates from there. But we are seeing that the updates, second draft, and further updates are dramatically less in the semi-automated process.
Okay, thank you. And I'm curious, do you allow reviewers to tweak prompts too, or is that a feature typically just restricted to the lead author?
So it's dependent on the teams that we're working with. Most teams will make notes and have the author do the re-edits, but the tool itself has the capability to be accessed by any different roles, so that it really is dependent on your organization's preference.
Okay, thank you very much.
Not a problem. Thank you, Dana. Great question. Anyone else have a question? Feel free to raise your hand, and I'll take you off mute. Or if you prefer to put a Q&A in the chat, I'm happy to answer from there. I believe we just got a question here. Yes. So a question around, does our tool work as an add-in in Word? So great question. Yes, we do have the tool has an AI, a Word assistant. This enables you to work hand in hand with Link AI directly within Word. And it also has a web interface, which is leveraged more on an administration level to set up templates and prompts to kind of build out your organizational structure. But as a medical writer, you'll be mainly leveraging Link AI within the Word AI assistant. I hope that answers your question, Diane. Were there any other questions? Just allow your mic. You should be able to come off mute now.
Awesome, thank you. I'm curious how this first draft authoring works in terms of are the sections mapped between the CSR protocol and SAP, or is it more flexible for the author to select what sections are relevant, say between the CSR and the protocol?
Great question. I'm going to pass up to my colleague Zach. He's just coming off mute. He'll be able to answer that.
Great question. Yes, so it does have the ability to extract the document structure, the table of contents, essentially. So, in addition to selecting a specific file, you can also select sections from within that file. So yes.
Okay, that's good to know. One last question I had was, when I'm working on the CSR draft, am I working on the actual Word document, or is Word more an API for your tool?
Yeah, you're working in the Word document itself. So you have a docx file that, and that's what you're revising. The text in the document itself is not at that stage, living in the Link AI system. It's wherever it is that you're working on it. What is connected to Link AI are the active prompts, and then the responses and the sources are still in there. So that all comes from that central web interface that we showed in the first demo segment. And your AI assistant, which is a Word add-in, is communicating with that database in order to facilitate refined prompts and getting new information from the model, and then presenting it to you in that AI assistant. But the document itself that you're writing is still is just a file that could be located anywhere.
Awesome. Thank you.
And do we have any more questions at all from anyone else, either live or in the Q&A section? Right, Dan. Allowed your mic. You should be able to come off mute now.
Yeah, thank you. Is it only PDF files, or can we upload other document files for the source documents?
Great question. So the source documents can be multiple formats of structured or unstructured data. So it can be Word, PDF, Excel. It is quite a robust system. In fact, you even have capabilities to edit the types of sources that you're uploading for any individual template. So if your current workflow finds that you're using a different source type than ones that were shown in our example, you actually have the capabilities to customize that and make it exactly replicable to your current medical writer's workflow.
Okay, even the templates are also flexible as per the customer requirement, right?
Exactly.
Yeah, thank you.
Not a problem. Great question. Okay, give a couple more minutes for any further questions. So while we wait for if there's any other questions in your mind, I do have one question for Zach to share. Zach, what happens if there are conflicts between the sources? Does Link AI help identify where maybe there are different answers to any different sections that are raised by the AI?
That's a good question. Yes, it typically will present a response that alludes to both sources, or not alludes, but points out that two sources had two different pieces of information. So we've tried that where like if we just provided a random protocol for a different study and then another protocol for a completely different study and then asked without specifying a source, which asked for the study name or something like that, a basic thing like that, it'll come back with saying, in two sources provided two different study names, and then the user is presented with an ability to select which of the answers is the correct one. And that's one of the reasons also that we added the function to direct it to specific sources instead, because it's not always so much just obvious conflicts and a completely different study, but sometimes one document might have slightly more robust or detailed information that you want it to use, and another one might be older or might have just not as much source information that you wanted to lean on. So by directing it to a specific source, it focuses its scope and its target on that information, and you get a better, richer response for what you're looking for if you are focusing it to the right place. It can look at the entire library of everything you provided, but it might provide a more cursory, or especially if there's information in other sources that is incomplete, it might lean on that more than you would like.
Brilliant. Thank you for clearing that up. All right, it looks like we have one more question in. Oh, that was the last question. Doesn't look like we have any more questions. Apologies. So we will be ending the webinar there. Thank you all for your attention and learning more about our Empowering Medical Writers series and Link AI. If you have any interest in learning more, please reach out to myself or Himanshu. We'd be happy to schedule a demonstration where we can walk you through the platform in more detail. And wherever you are on your generative AI journey, we wish you the best of luck. It's showing lots of promise to make medical writing more efficient and providing more ability and resources for medical writers to focus on the right areas that less data crunching and more using their skills to make complex information accessible to the audience they're writing for. Here at TrialAssure, we really believe in AI enabled but human driven work, and looking forward to see that continue to grow in the next year or so. Thank you all for your attention. Have a lovely day. Bye.